Funerals actually take a lot more planning than I expected. With us using island cuisine for the first time, of course we were iffy, but once they came and showed us their service, their food, we tasted their food and everything, we definitely use them again because their service and food is just awesome.
I have a question for you. Yes. Would you rather have...
Babe, I forgot the ice. I'll be right back.
Okay. Get some snacks too.
Okay.
Hey, excuse me, sir. Did you forget something?
Actually, yes, we forgot a bag of ice for our drinks.
We're Glen Probetsu. We could take care of that for you. Follow me. You said you needed ice?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there anything else you needed?
Yes, maybe some snacks.
Sure. Okay, your order's complete, sir. Your order should be here shortly.
All right, great. Thank you.
Sir, here's your order.
All right. Suzuki.
Glen Probetsu.
I'll ride with the horses, I'll swim through the sea, I'll climb to the mountain tops. Won't you come follow me? I'll take time to notice all that I see, and after I've come so far, you know where I'll be. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home. I'll fly away, fly away, fly away, fly away home.
The Pampas,
an elite which will go away.
because we are
Real and direct.
no interest owns us.
And we have no interest but
The truth. Together we are exposing
Corruption.
Together we will reform criminal justice
together.
We are
Fighting violence
against women and children.
We here at
Candid
It will shine the light.
on every corner of darkness.
Together we are giving a voice.
to the voiceless.
and forgotten.
Together.
Together,
Together.
together,
Together. We are giving a voice to the voiceless and forgotten.
We are Candid News Group.
Buenos Marianas in Micronesia. I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
And
I'm Ken Leon Guerrero.
our guest in the studio, a Republican senatorial candidate. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
I'm looking forward to tonight.
We're looking forward to it too. Ken, are you well, first of all, this is Chalikilis Coffee and Change. Let's head off with some bumper music.
Thank you. Here we go. Stand by. Here we go.
Eric was taking us back to old school, I guess. That's an old school beat, right?
You know, old soul.
That was before Snoop Dogg and
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was back in what days of what? Who? Eazy-E?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Don't get me started rapping on Eazy-E. So.
Denise is all like, "Oh yeah, that's my jam." Ken, are you a pet owner?
Yes, I am.
Are you a pet lover?
Yes, I am.
What do you have?
I have 3 dogs and 2 cats.
3 dogs. Do you have room for more? Because Gain has 4. That was a good lead-in, right?
Yeah, that was a good lead.
Yeah, good lead-in. I surprise myself sometimes. Gain has 4 lovelies. This is Russet. Okay, now I need to come up with new lines for this, okay? Because I did not write this. Cutie Patootie Russet is a sweet 1-year-old girl who does well with other puppers, is potty trained, and has been at the shelter for nearly 6 months. She is such a deserving girl and hopes to find her new forever family soon. Meet her today at Game. China, this sweet girl has all the love to give. With 3 months of life under her belt, she has developed a love for playing, romping with her friends, and nibbling on snacks. She hopes to meet her humans super soon. This is
Leonidas.
Which one is it? Leonidas?
Yes.
It might be impossible for a kitten to be more handsome than Leonidas. Not because my kittens are more handsome. I was kidding. But yeah, Leonidas is pretty darn cute. At just 3 months old, this little guy already has all the tools to steal your heart. Make him a part of your forever family today. I know, I didn't write any of this. And the last one is Starlight.
Yes.
So, Starlight looks like cute in an evil kind of way. You know what I'm saying?
Like the one that'll grab a hold of you.
Yes, with her claws.
And hit you 4 times and you thought it's only once.
1 second, 4 times in 1 second.
My cat is the evil spawn of Satan.
We are all animal people. I know, I'm sorry. Starlight has enjoyed her 5 months of life so much, and it has made her the sweetest kitty cat out there. Sunbathing and cuddling are her favorite pastimes, and hopes to spend the rest of her many months. No, I think she has years left. Doing those things with her favorite people. Meet Starlight States. So all of these animals are at Gain right now. And I'm kind of worried about Rusted. Can you put Rusted's picture back up?
Yes.
I'm a little worried about Rusted because Rusted no longer looks like a puppy. And Rusted's been at the pound for 6 months already. So you know what happens when they fill up.
Yeah.
You know, and so if anyone can go and get Rusted, please do. Ken, you have room for another dog, right? You're full?
We're full.
You're full?
We have 3 now, and we have 2 cats.
Yeah?
And they're all indoors.
And they get along?
Oh, yeah.
Do the cats rule the house?
Well, our queen is Terminator.
Terminator.
Termy for short, yes.
The
There's a whole story there, but her name is Terminator.
What's the story?
She was abandoned. Someone threw her out of a moving car. And so when she made her way up to our house, the right side of her face was gone, right down to the skin, road rash, and her right eye was bloodshot, so it was all red. So when you look at the Terminator poster, you know, that one red eye and the metal underneath the skin.
That's a strong cat, though.
Oh, yeah.
I would never think that you have cats.
She attacks dogs.
Oh.
Whenever any stray dogs get too close to our property, she attacks them. So all the dogs in the neighborhood, when they're walking through, they get in the field across the street. They don't walk down the street because she'll attack them.
We should send her into the 35th Guam legislature and see what she does.
I'm worried about contingent liability because I am the owner, you know.
Okay, let's get some of the easier stuff out of the way so that we can have the bigger discussions. So first, you told us your position on gambling already, right?
Yes.
And if anyone Googles your name, they'll see it attached to Stop
Numerous.
Gambling. Yeah.
Yeah, numerous op-ed pieces against gambling and numerous testimonies on various bills over the years.
Opposed to gambling.
Opposing gambling or for bills that oppose gambling.
Got it. Okay, so that one's easy. Second, the last time we talked to you about the Medical Malpractice Mandatory Arbitration Act, you said you need to look into it more. Let's
talk about that,
okay,
because
so
with the court decision, I've now been exposed, and I have a conflict here.
Okay.
How can you say there is no barrier to getting into court when there's a barrier to getting into court? Because
exactly.
If there was no barrier, you could go straight to court. But the fact that you have to go through an impossible hurdle, impossible if you don't own a large company or have a large income from some other position, because they're going to drag this arbitration process out. Mm-hmm. So I understand why it existed. I think that maybe the time has come to readdress it and realign it.
Okay.
Instead of making it mandatory, I think it should be optional.
Okay, so you are in favor of reform?
I am in favor of reform, but we got to do, the old saying, make haste slowly. This is a hasty thing that we need to approach, but we need to get all the information on the table, and we need to look at how the law is crafted, because too many of the laws here on Guam are crafted badly.
Why do you think that is?
Well, because the senators that we have over the years, we've had good senators, we've had bad senators. Good senators introduce very few bills, but they work very hard on the bills they introduce. And I'll toss Mary Torres out. Mm-hmm. Now, full disclosure, Mary Torres and I fight like cats and dogs on just about every issue. So I don't always agree with bills she introduces.
Okay.
But when she does introduce a bill I agree with, I see the hard work that went into it.
Okay.
Two bills popped to mind right off the bat. The ID, permanent ID for senior citizens.
Yes.
It's a little thing, but it's going to make a big difference in the quality of life of our senior citizens. Mm-hmm. And Evie's bill, Evie's law.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that was my niece.
Oh, okay. I know her parents.
Yeah.
I know Evie's parents.
Yeah, okay. So that was my niece. But, so when she does work on bills, she does great work. Then you look at bills introduced by other senators, and I'll pick one at random. Oh, Tina Munibar. Oh, God, that just popped out there. Very random. My first encounter with her was over the Simon Sanchez reconstruction. She and Judy Wampat wrote a bill that was so bad that the contract ended up being awarded to a company that never built anything. In fact, a mixed martial art performance booking promoter, a mixed martial arts booking promoter got a contract to build a high school, in spite of the fact it never built anything, let alone a high school. It had only been in business like 9 months at that time.
But Ken, to be fair, lots of that was happening during the Calvo.
Lots of that was happening.
A lot of these developers who had no experience developing.
I know, but we're talking about examples of bad law.
Yeah.
And the law was so bad that I tried to force the legislature to close 3 loopholes. One, amend the law so that the requirement only companies that have a verifiable track record building multi-million-dollar buildings be considered. Law number 2, and the contractors have to have performance bonds with government of Guam as the beneficiary. And number 3, we cap the bill. Put a cap, a spending cap, not to exceed, a number. And the number I was looking at was 90 million. Why? Because all the proposals were coming in at 70, 72, 75, 78. And so the newest company, the smallest company, the company that didn't have any building experience ended up getting it. And they were proposing a smaller project at the highest cost.
I think they wanted to go beyond 150 million.
Well, they
if I'm
were
not
looking at
mistaken.
160 million.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, that is an example of bad law.
Yeah.
There are many other examples.
What I'm trying to get at is, do you think some of that bad in the law was
Written
more
on purpose?
designed that way? Yeah.
Yes. That's why I fought it. It went all the way to the Attorney General's office, and that's when I got my first letter. The Attorney General of Guam represents the government of Guam, and therefore we cannot entertain your complaint as a citizen. Why are we electing the Attorney General? That's why one of my initiatives I was working on, I called it the Corrupt Practices Act, and along with that, return the Attorney General to the government and have a public prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's even provided for in the Organic Act. But it goes back to the bad laws. We had Bill 30, which was a $10 million gift to the Guam Regional Medical Center, which ripped $20 million out of the revenue of Guam Memorial Hospital.
Yes.
At the same time, it inflated the cost of Guam Memorial Hospital.
We have the
Bad bill.
health insurance contract bills.
That was Bill 30. And now we have this new bill, 368, that, remember that emergency session? And they substituted the bill at the last minute, and it's going to go into effect in 2021. It's not even going into effect now. What was the emergency?
So you've been talking about this stuff, these and several other issues of corruption for the past how many years?
12.
12 years, right?
Yes.
When I was in the Calvo administration, I found myself on the receiving end of that criticism because I was the communications director. Hey, no harm, no foul.
No.
I'm good. I was a professional, and I understood you were doing your job, right? So, and you were doing a very good job. You were hitting on many things that I knew were true, and so you've been the one criticizing all this stuff. Am I correct to assume that part of the reason you want to be a senator is to have that larger voice? The one of 15 voices in that legislature rather than a gallery voice?
That's one reason.
Okay.
The second reason is because this was my second time to try to do the voter initiative to reform the election process. And we got hit with COVID. First time my mother died, and then my mother-in-law died within 3 months of each other.
Sorry.
And so, that took the wind out of my sails in 2016. And so in 2020, we had already done the 10 village meetings. We were in the process of preparing our paperwork when COVID hit. Well, there's no way we were going to have 10 more village meetings introducing the GEC authorized version, and there was no way we were going to be going door to door to collect the required signatures. So that's why I decided, okay, I will try to reform it from the inside. But more importantly, like you said, I want to take a true representative of the people onto the floor to make sure that any bill that comes through those doors is going to be looked at with the people's perspective in mind.
Yeah.
Because there are too many bills in the legislature right now that don't take the people into consideration. And I would do my damnedest to make sure those bills died in committee or died on the floor.
I want to circle back to the issue of corruption. We'll bring up Governor Leon Guerrero, former Governor Calvo, the former Mandania Drug Task Force, a couple of your colleagues running in the Republican side of the ticket. I want to go back to that when we get to our top story tonight.
Okay.
But can we go first to the issue of crime? We just got these videos. Can we play them back to back? This apparently was at a house in Maina. And when I saw these videos, my blood just boiled. There was no violence in them. But the only thing I could think was, who does this guy think he is? And what makes him think that this isn't his stuff?
No.
He didn't work for it. And he's just going, look at it. Look what he does.
Yeah.
Just taking stuff from someone's house.
Remember that video that ran earlier this year, that red car backing up to the house, and they were throwing the weed eater and the lawnmower and the generator.
It said Tovis.
And Tovis right there on the back windshield, Tovis.
I want to see his face.
I think in the other video, his face shows a little more clearly, but you can see it a little bit there.
Yeah.
That really pisses
He's taking
me
his
off.
time.
It does. Normally, like when people steal things, it doesn't.
Even taking the shoes.
Yep, yeah, that's how cochino he is. When I read about the thefts, you know, in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna judge because maybe this person fell on hard times, needed for the kids, whatever, right? But as I'm looking at this, and I'm like, man, that's an able-bodied guy. He's shopping at someone's house. Whoever owns this house, they probably worked or borrowed money from someone, whatever, so that they can buy these things for themselves. And this guy's just taking it. Yeah. What are these? Are Christmas gifts? I don't know. It just boiled my blood when I saw this. This happened at 3:31 p.m. today. There's a timestamp on this. And I don't know whose house that is. It was just sent on WhatsApp. Thank goodness for the Ring. You know, those cameras that you can get over at Home Depot.
Yeah.
So, Ken, my question for you is, what's up with crime? What are you going to do about it? Well, not from a governor's perspective, not from a police perspective, from a legislator's perspective.
Well, from the legislator's perspective, we need to fully fund the police department. I say fully fund it, because right now we're killing our police officers. Stress, they're under a tremendous amount of stress. First of all, because they're underpaid. I mean, I've seen police officers applying for food stamps. So when your police officers are applying for food stamps, that's a risk to the community, number one. Number two, it's a risk to their health, because stress, that's one of the reasons why our police officers are as big as they are. Because when they're under stress, it releases the cortisol, which holds on to their food. And when they're under stress all the time, because when you pull over a car, you don't know what's going to happen. So it's a stress situation. Even a routine traffic stop is a stress situation. Going to a home for a domestic is the high stress situation. You know, so they're under stress all the time. They're at work. They're overworked. Look at the hours they're putting in. And they're working under adverse conditions. They don't have the equipment they need. They don't have the support they need. And their caseloads are so backed up that people are driving down Marine Corps Drive 55, 60 miles an hour. You know why? They know the chances of getting pulled over, unless you're driving by the port or by the airport where they have a very small workload, they have time to do traffic enforcement. So
funding is one.
Fully funding them is one thing.
Okay.
Now the second problem we have is the judicial system, and we're probably going to get into that tonight too. When we have a catch-and-release program that is as aggressive as it is, and it's the whole system. It's the AG's office that refuses to prosecute 90% of the cases that come across their desk, and then there's the court that proposes releasing, but then the Attorney General's office doesn't object. They accept, So we have police officers who do their damnedest to catch people, and then when you see people arrested for murder, rape, criminal sexual misconduct, being released back in the community, advised, don't go next door and talk to your next door neighbor's family, what kind of safety is that?
So the release, as I understand it, that's what a judge does, and it has something to do with the
judicial discretion within the limits of the law.
Okay, so you would change?
I would make some changes to the law.
Okay. To confine judges to certain parameters?
Well, you hear the 3 strikes law, and you hear judges all the time, oh, you shoplifted a bag of M&Ms, but this is the third strike. I have no choice but to send you back. And they complain that their judicial decisions have been taken away from them.
What if it's a violent crime towards his family, his wife, his children, or any violent crime towards anybody? If you've done that once, twice, 3 times, then you know what I'm saying? You're not stealing a bag. When I've seen ladies at the gas station stealing food, they're shoving it in their purse because it's for they're stealing for their kids or for themselves because they're hungry. I'm not saying that it's right.
But they probably spend more time in jail than a wife beater.
Yes.
Yeah. But you see, that means that we need to overhaul our entire justice system, starting from the Attorney General's office. take him out of the crime business. Put him into representing government of Guam. Get a public prosecutor who has to answer to the people. You know, I mean, why did we elect an attorney general? That every time someone brings a complaint, I'm sorry, but you're a citizen. You know, we can't entertain your complaint because you're a citizen. We only deal with the government.
I think we elected an attorney general to get us into class action suits with 23 other states.
Yeah, I know. So, you know, the people of Guam are being underserved by our criminal justice system. The result is we don't feel safe anymore. You know, I mean, trying to get signatures was a wake-up call, because I'm walking through the streets of one of the most populous villages on the island thinking, I'll knock out my 250 easy. But 90% of the homes on this street have walls, fences, dogs, you know, and you can't get the owner's attentions. All the windows are barred. They have double, triple locks on the front doors. So we are the prisoners. We're prisoners in our own homes, and it's in every village you go to. I was walking out in the boondocks of Santa Rita trying to collect signatures, and on this one street, it was the same thing. It's all family, right? This area is all family, yet even though it's all family, all the houses have fences, dogs, no trespassing signs, and bars on the windows. This wasn't the Guam that I grew up in. The Guam I grew up in, we were going out, and out of habit, because when I lived in Okinawa, it was different. You know, we lived, no long story, but I locked the front door. And my uncle got mad at me for locking the front door. And I said, well, aren't you worried? The reason they leave the front door open is, what if somebody comes over and we're not here, but it's raining or it's too hot? They can come and sit in the living room.
No, not in my house.
Not today, but this was back in the 60s and early 70s, before urban renewal hit Senahania. You know, I mean, when we lived in Senahania back in the 60s and 70s, we never locked our house.
I remember actually back in the 80s, living in Winning, we didn't lock the doors.
Even in Dedido.
But now, I mean, I live in a family compound. And if I'm going to be outside bush cutting or something,
you don't lock your door.
I lock the doors.
Because you don't know what's going to happen. Yeah.
You know, that's what has happened. So fighting crime, and then for 4 years now, I've been trying to get the government to buy more drug dogs. We can spend $3.5 million on the FestPac homeless shelters, but we couldn't spend $30,000 to get 3 dogs. We can spend $400,000 to send 100 people to FestPac for a weekend, but we can't take that $400,000 and buy 30 dogs. You know, how much would we be reducing the flow of drugs into this island if we had enough drug dogs that every flight was met, that every bag was sniffed in the concourse, at every parcel coming out of the containers at the post office or coming out of the airplanes, if they had to go past a drug dog, if every container before it was released from the port, they had to open it up and a dog had to smell it.
If every container was sniffed by a drug-sniffing dog at the seaport, there would hardly be any.
They'd overdose. the dogs would be overdosing. But the point is, we don't do things to make the people of Guam safer because the politicians lack the political will to do it. That's why we need to change. If we're going to change the course of our island, we have to change the people who are riding that course, who are navigating that course. That's a legislature. Einstein's definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Well, Joanne Brown this is going to be her 7th term. Chris Duenas he's trying to get in for a 3rd or 4th term. You know, Tony Atta, this is how many terms he's at. You know, we keep electing these same people over and over. They didn't fix the problems when they were in power, so how do we know they're going to fix the problems now?
They're not. I know these people, and I know they won't, and I know what they stand for, and I know that they do not actually stand for something that means anything for the interests of the people of Guam.
Well, that's why I've been fighting so hard for the new candidates, both on the Democrat side and the Republican side.
Well, I have to disagree with you about.
I know. Let's go there.
Let's go there. Yes, that's my bone.
So,
I went through your list.
we're talking about the video that Ken released about, you know, who basically it was a video promoting the new candidates
it was
and
His
explaining
suggestions
why. Yes.
of everything. The incumbents he wants to keep in there.
And it was bipartisan.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was bipartisan.
So on whatever number, the last
16.
number came in on the Republican side.
16.
There's a name there that you put, and I'm like, why would he even suggest it? Why not leave it blank?
I called him up and I was like, I just do not agree with you about J.I. Cruz. I'm so sorry. It's like, I cannot.
Now, this is a primary election. And if you saw my video, the title was How to Train Your Politicians.
Mm-hmm.
So my goal here is to train our politicians. And the way we train our politicians is we vote for, they're all going to the general anyway.
Okay.
So even those that I agree with or disagree with, you'll see when I make my final recommend list for the general election.
Okay.
But in the meantime, by voting for all the new candidates and not voting for the incumbents on the blacklist
Or the recycled ones,
then we're sending a very clear and powerful message to politicians. You play the political pari-pari game at your own risk. Any senator or politician that makes serving politically well-connected insiders or themselves more important than serving the people of Guam is going to feel it where it hurts most, and that's at the election booth. So in this election, if everybody votes for all the new candidates and don't vote for the old candidates or the incumbents, except for the five.
Exception of five, okay.
Yeah. And that teaches all the politicians, both old and new, a lesson.
So are you saying then that you don't necessarily support whoever, including J.I. Cruz? That's my
Right
contention.
now, I'm supporting all new candidates. And as we go forward, one of the things I was talking about is the candidates.
You'll
then I'm going to have
down.
my but you see, as you know, my recommend list isn't just a name. I build a case for or against a candidate.
Well, I'm still not going to vote for J.I. Cruz in the primary, and primarily because in the primary election, I'm voting on the Democratic side of the ballot.
Me too.
Okay.
And let's get into this now. So thank you for addressing that, because J.I. Cruz is the devil and he should never be elected to public office. So on the Democratic side of the ballot, the reason I want to vote on that side is I'm also a registered Democrat now, but it's because of the congressional race. And, you know, I'm going to vote for Michael Chalikilis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Clearly, any reasonable person, just any reasonable person, unless you disagree with him on an issue. Like, there are people who are activists who would disagree with his position on decolonization. Okay, I get it. If that's your number one issue, fine, I get it. But any reasonable person otherwise would just think that Michael Chalikilis is doing a good job.
Well, full disclosure, Michael Chalikilis and I are not friends.
Okay.
We have a clash of styles.
Sure.
But I didn't even support him when he ran the first time. I supported Doris.
Okay.
But he has earned my respect as my congressman.
Yeah.
I have seen the quality of his work compared to the quality of the former congressperson. And that's the only person I can measure him against. But when you look at the history of Michael Chalikilis, the reason why we're seeing the releasing of the hounds on him is because he put the people of Guam first over the Democrat Party. And if you go back to 2018, when Regine Bisco-Lee issued her infamous threat to Frank Uggan, who I was also supporting with the write-in campaign, about, being loyal to the Democrat Party, and you going out there is not being loyal to the party. Well, he didn't go out there. Andre Bynum and I and a bunch of other people went out there and ran the write-in campaign. Frank Uggan didn't even get on board till like 3 or 4 weeks after we started the movement. But the fact that Mike Nicholas has, I was impressed with him as a senator in the 31st and 32nd legislature. He always put the people first, and he put them first passionately and eloquently.
Mm-hmm.
So I respect his professionalism. Now, the fact that I don't like him doesn't mean crap.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact he doesn't like me doesn't mean crap. It's just I'm 66, he's not. I'm more conservative, he's not, you know. So it's a clash of wills, it's a clash of personalities. But he's been a very good, I would say borderline great congressman for the people of Guam, because he went in there and right off the bat, he fixed a technical detail that everybody else was trying to hide.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He didn't try to hide it. He says, we have a technical problem, I'll fix it.
Senator Amanda Shelton tried to hide it when she was a congressional staffer for Madeline Bradalio. No one talks about that. She's a
We're
sitting
talking
senator.
about it now.
Oh, well, thank goodness. So Congressman Nicholas had a snap press conference today.
Yeah,
and
I
it was
watched it.
I didn't realize that Congressman Underwood held his own news conference, and so Congressman Nicholas was responding to that. And so what I gather of the Underwood news conference was Congressman Underwood getting, you know, he's in the mud already.
Yeah.
Because, well, let's face it, he's probably trailing Nicholas by double digits in the polls. He has an uphill battle if he wants to take out Mike Nicholas in the primary election, a very uphill battle. And so his campaign has already started dirty. I've seen some of the ads.
Yeah.
And he's calling Congressman Nicholas out to discuss an investigation that he knows the congressman is not able to discuss because it's under investigation.
Yeah, but that goes back to the integrity and the quality of the person running. I mean, the fact that, even in his own video, he talks about how it was a last-minute decision to do this. Yeah. Well, do you want someone in Washington that on a last-minute, spur-of-the-moment decides to run for office and does so purely out of political spite? He's not running for the office to serve the people of Guam. If he was running for the office to serve the people of Guam 6 months ago, he would have been right there side by side with Will Castro when Will Castro declared 8 months ago that he was running for Congress. Robert Underwood would have had more credibility as a congressional candidate if 8 months ago he said that, I'm not happy, and I've talked to a lot of other people, but, literally 96 hours before the filing deadline, he decides to run for office,
Yeah. So you
So-
question his integrity.
I question his integrity on that. I question his motives on that. And if you look back at my...
But Robert Underwood acts like he was never under investigation, ever.
Yeah.
You know?
That?
Oh, you see, I don't know. I don't know that.
He knows what the process is.
Yeah, that's good to know.
Yeah.
But I don't know that because probably at the time, I didn't
remember at the time he was the Congress. We didn't have social media.
Yeah,
Okay? So everything came by snail mail, by telephone. The news has to do their investigation to make sure this. But now we have social media, so things get to us faster.
Yeah, well,
right.
Everything before 2007, I only know second or third hand because I came back to Guam in 2007.
I actually got it in our chat, so I'll get them and I'll send it over to you.
Okay, good. Yeah. That's good to know because I'm upset about this for 3 reasons. The first reason, the only reason we're having this primary election is because Robert Underwood. Mm-hmm. He's the only reason we're having it, and the Democrats.
Right. Yeah.
Because if it hadn't have been for Robert Underwood running in the Democrat side, it would have been, Mike would have been unopposed in the Democrat primary, Castro would be unopposed in the Republican, and it would have been politically easier for the senators to vote yes on 375. But I'm guessing the orders came down from Adelup, and the Democrat fraction, the loyal soldiers of Adelup, not the loyal soldiers of the people, because the loyal soldier, if they were loyal soldiers of the people, they would have said a little bit of risk is too much risk for not enough gain.
Let's talk about this, and let's talk about this without any political euphemisms or sugarcoating what we might think about this issue. When I see all the powers that be who are opposed to Mike Senatorial, the governor, her minions, Adelup, the cabinet, her corporate sponsors who are now with the Underwood campaign, Underwood himself, they're Democrats.
Yeah.
They're all Democrats.
Yeah.
Mike Senatorial is a Democrat. He's got grassroots support from Democrats, Republicans, Independents, whatever, right? And I'm wondering, why do they hate this guy so much? And we had this discussion, and the last place we left this was they're jealous of him. But I started to think about this guy. I think Mike Senatorial is actually their biggest threat in the 2022 election. I think they're doing this to him now, if not to defeat him in his congressional run, then to weaken him in the head up to the gubernatorial election in 2022. I think that's why Governor
it has to
Leon
be bigger
Guerrero,
than just jealousy.
Yeah.
You know, it's something bigger.
Governor Leon Guerrero and her people are gung ho anti Mike Senatorial, and it just doesn't make any sense except that that's right. They're scared of him. It just comes down to that.
That's because, first of all, he is the mirror that they can't match up to.
Yeah.
Because his level of integrity, as far as the people's representative. I mean, I have an advantage over a lot of people watching or listening because I have sat through numerous public hearings at the legislature since 2007. And I've heard different politicians talk. And then when Mike Senatorial came in, he was different right from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back and look at videos of any bill, any public hearing that he participated in, you can see and hear where his focus is. And this sounds the people of Guam. He always says that. You know, the people of Guam didn't da-da-da. You know, the people of Guam are, you know.
Would you believe me if I told you he's actually always talked like that? Since high school, he's always talked like that. That's
I know,
not
but
fake. That really is him.
But you can tell that's not posed prose.
Yeah, that's
posed
just
prose.
him.
You guys got that?
Maybe we got it.
It wasn't posed prose. It's just the way he talks. Because even when I was sitting in his office discussing mass transit, remember I was on the Calvo Mass Transit Task Force for a while. I went to Mike Senatorial because he was the head of the transportation and infrastructure, and I had a number of meetings with him, and he always talked like that, even when it was just the two of us talking about some detail or stuff on mass transit. He said, well, you know, that would be a good benefit for the people of Guam. I could see how the people of Guam would appreciate something like that. You know, he's always been like that with me and in
with
public
everyone.
Hearings and testimony. You're saying that even outside of that.
Since high school. I think that the powers that be are just deathly afraid of him running for governor in 2022. I think they're just doing whatever they can to, at the very least, weaken him in the lead up to that election.
But they don't realize they're strengthening him.
Yeah. Well, because, I mean, I didn't say the powers that be were smart.
Okay.
I just...
Yeah, they won't get this.
Yeah.
So, you know, what I see, and I talk with a lot of people out there, and I'm in campaign mode. It's kind of different because I'm one of the names on the list, but I'm still doing my normal temperature check everywhere I go. Home Depot, Kmart, Payless, you know, every place I go, I talk to people and I ask them about things. And the support for Mike Senatorial is very strong. It's real, you know.
Well, it's got to be because, like I said, reasonable people with no skin in the game would just like him.
But as we're seeing on social media, most of these people that are bashing him, it's fake accounts.
Yeah, they're just trolls.
Yeah,
they're just trolls.
It's fake accounts.
And it's funny because Robert Underwood for like the last year was bashing social media, bashing Mike Senatorial because he engaged the audience on social media, and he said, you know, it's not a true platform for engagement with people. But now all he's doing is using social media to get his
there's one other
message out.
problem Underwood has, and that's credibility, because he's been the independent movement champion Now, let's think about this. We're going to send a guy who wants to disassociate with the United States, wants to disconnect from all the structures of the United States and the instruments of the United States, and we're going to send him to represent us in the United States. And bear in mind that any change in political status is going to have to go through the Congress. Do we have an unbiased representation in the Congress that's representing all the people of Guam?
With Robert Underwood, the answer is obviously no.
No, we don't.
With Mike Nicholas, I mean, the guy's, I think he's clearly biased toward a closer relationship with the United States.
Well, that puts him in line with 87% of the people on Guam who want a closer relationship with the United States.
Personally, I'm good with that.
Yeah. See, that's why I'm going to be, this is going to be interesting because I'm on the Finogi. I can't even say it. Finogi. I'm with the Finogi.
The debate
tomorrow. And they sent the questions, and they're going to ask those questions about the decolonization.
I was telling Johnny and Eric, I was like, well, this should be interesting, what Ken's answers and how the audience will respond to what Ken has to say.
Well, it's going to be a Zoom conference, unfortunately, because I would have liked it. Because
maybe Janella will be there and she'll mute you.
Well, when I went to the Independence Conference at the university that was hosted by Robert Underwood, remember his big speech about the next step for our island?
No, I don't remember.
Well, I got it on video if you want it.
Not really, but thanks.
Anyway, I was asking a lot of the college students who were coming up to me trying to get me to find out where I stood on statehood. I mean, on the independence issue. And then I found out that the majority of these kids aren't even registered to vote. And I said, well, why aren't you registered to vote? And they're saying things like, oh, that would be kneeling before the oppressor. That would be, giving into their game. We're not going to play their game.
You know what that is?
What?
Their parents never hit them. That's what that. They never had a slipper fly to their face when they talked back.
They never got pinched in the tats again.
And turned the arm twist. That's what that is.
Or they got the knuckle to the noggin.
Yeah, no, they didn't. I don't understand what that is.
Okay, well, it goes back to this is a critical election for our people and our island, and we need to make sure that we put public servants in as many slots as possible, and obviously the congressional representative is a very key slot that we need someone who has a proven track record of putting the people of Guam first.
Getting shiz done.
Yeah, and I think Michael has more than met that test.
I want to just take a hard turn left to north to the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, and
they got Si Basenti. Lania Si Basenti.
Oh, Lania Si Basenti.
They got him
that last night?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, they picked him up?
They picked him up.
Did they say why? What happened?
They got him for a lot of charges.
No, but did they say why he rammed the guy's car?
No, it didn't. Oh, okay. It didn't say. It was on Mariana's Dirty Laundry.
Okay, I'll read it after. Okay, so huge news today, Ken. We're going to talk about this, and we're going to bring it back to corruption in Guam as our top issue to discuss with you. But huge news coming out of the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands today. A case that was filed, a criminal case that was filed 2 years ago on February 27, 2018, was unsealed today. There was an indictment that was filed in February 2018, a superseding indictment filed on August 1, 2019. It's been sealed this entire time, and the U.S. Attorney for Guam and the CNMI wanted the case sealed for all of these 2 years because there were more arrests that had to be made and related investigations that hadn't been completed yet. And if they had unsealed this information or these indictments, it would have caused these other people to flee or their investigations to be damaged. So they unsealed it this morning. And that means that whatever investigations that they were doing are no longer in jeopardy from this information becoming public. And just last Thursday, the CNMI, in district court in the CNMI, the U.S. Attorney filed 5 new criminal cases Now, to put that into perspective, for this entire year, there now have only been 9 criminal cases filed in district court. Criminal cases numbers 1 through 3 and number 9 all are unsealed. And now numbers 4 through 8, all filed on July 30, last Thursday, have been sealed by the district court. To put this more into perspective, for the entire year of 2019, there were only 3 criminal cases. This is huge. And the timing of the unsealing of this 2019 superseding indictment against Peter Wu, Jianmin Shu, and Yan Shi, I don't believe much in coincidences. And before we talk about what they were indicted for, just to point out that the chief prosecutor on this case is a guy named David
Jaffe, Jaffe. He is the acting chief of the organized crime and gang section at the U.S. Department of Justice out of Washington, D.C. He has worked, I know, right? He has worked for the administration of Mayor Rudy Giuliani before moving on to become the assistant U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, before moving into the Justice Department under special prosecutions, human trafficking, gangs, and other RICO cases.
He's had, a lot of experience with RICO cases, violent crimes, money laundering. They send the big guns.
Yeah.
And he's been on this case since the superseding indictment, where these 3 men were charged with 71 total counts of RICO conspiracy, conspiracy to harbor illegal aliens, harboring illegal aliens, unlawful employment of aliens, and international promotional money laundering. Now, who are these guys? Peter Wu was a senior executive at IPI CNMI.
Mm-hmm.
Jianmin Shu, this is even, I don't know why this guy's name isn't first. He was the president of IPI in Hong Kong. IPI in Hong Kong is the parent company. These are the big dogs. And Yan Shi is the executive from the CNMI version of a company called MCC, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of MCC China, which is a state-owned company. The government of China owns it. And so the U.S. attorney has gone after these casino and construction executives, not just in the CNMI, but in China and Hong Kong. Oh, and Taiwan. One of these guys is from Taiwan as well. This is a huge thing. There are unindicted co-conspirators, according to the superseding indictment. One of them also comes from the IPI parent company. Another one comes from the MCC parent company in China. And these guys did a lot of bad stuff. So it goes back to a conspiracy that started in 2015, where they all schemed to bring in illegal aliens. They came up with a whole plan to train them in China, bring them to Shanghai on a certain date, have them get on the plane. The IPI paid for the tickets and everything. They, as Customs and Border Patrol became more, or started to scrutinize the processes more, they started having a more elaborate scheme. They would have costumes. They would pair them with women and have them act as husband and wife or boyfriend and girlfriend. In return for these women from China being given a round-trip vacation, all expenses paid by IPI to Saipan from China. Many of them would overstay their visit. Remember, the CNMI has parole authority. So they can, the United States government has given parole authority for Chinese visitors to go to the CNMI and to visit. What they don't have, beyond what CBP has provided, is work visas.
Mm-hmm.
And so this company, MCC CNMI, which had the contract to build the behemoth in Garapan, the big casino, they were under the gun to build by certain deadlines. And IPI would threaten MCC with fines and other stuff. Hey, if you don't do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. So they got together and they were like, let's use these Chinese workers that were already in Saipan and did not have work visas. They were there on vacation. They kept them there to work on the construction. They were not experienced. And this explains a whole lot of the construction site.
Them getting hurt.
Yes.
They weren't even allowed to see a doctor.
They have it in evidence. Someone squealed, and they have the WeChat chats. WeChat, it's the Chinese. They use it a lot in Southeast Asia. They have the WeChat chats of one of these guys saying, "This is a very important, high urgency message. For those of the construction workers without status, if they need to see a doctor, don't." The project department will figure out a solution. I think that's almost exactly what that message said. They were being denied medical care when medical care was needed.
There was a lot of deaths. There's people that fell off the buildings, right?
Yep.
And they were just thrown into the hospital and dropped there and left, the people who were in charge. And what gets me about this whole thing, yes, this is coming out, but the Saipan government they knew these things were happening.
Oh, and they were like, the casino is the next best thing to slice bread. And they were going to provide the salvation for the people. And I have a bone to pick with the media in Saipan, because when you read this superseding indictment and you read an unsealed document that has been around since 2018. This is civil case 18-00030. I'm not even going to know how to pronounce their names. It's 7 Chinese men's names as the plaintiffs versus Gold Mantis Construction, CNMI. Gold Mantis is that huge construction company, publicly traded and all, right, in China. MCC International Saipan, that's that construction company that had the contract, and Imperial Pacific International, CNMI. And these guys, these 7 construction workers, they're among those those workers that were brought in through this scheme. And they had had enough of the abuse, and they sued because they were working 7 days a week without break, more than 12 hours each day. They were getting paid below minimum wage. They had to pay the equivalent of $8,000 before leaving China in fees to the company. Then when they got to Saipan, they had to pay more fees to the company that was bringing them in. Then they were living in close quarters. They were living in inhumane conditions. Where sometimes there wasn't water, many times there wasn't power, sewage wasn't being provided. Sometimes they would work 24-hour shifts. If they had medical needs, they weren't being met. And then, interestingly, and I don't remember this ever being reported in the media, when you go to the facts of the case, fact number 50, in or around February 2017, Victor Hokug, the CNMI lieutenant governor, told Imperial Pacific that federal authorities were investigating the presence of unauthorized workers on the casino project. The lieutenant governor of the CNMI tipped off this criminal enterprise to a federal investigation. It's sick. But hold on, it gets sicker. And this is all. These documents have been publicly available for quite some time. So there's this supervisor named Supervisor Kong. Or Hong. It's Kong. Supervisor Kong. And this just makes me absolutely sick that this kind of information was ignored, because since this time, there have been several deaths and disappearances of Chinese nationals. And that there weren't many people who cared enough to make this an issue just boils my blood. So it says, Supervisor Kong intimidated plaintiffs by threatening to physically harm any employee who challenged him or was not entirely obedient to him. Told plaintiffs that if they get injured or even if they die, nobody would care because they were Hei Gong. It's Mandarin for black worker. Supervisor Kong told a group of employees, including some plaintiffs, that if they did something to hurt his personal interests, he would kill them. Supervisor Kong told plaintiffs that it is not unusual for a Chinese person to be killed in Saipan and that nobody would notice if a few Chinese people disappeared. It's sick, this kind of, and like Johnny said, it ain't like the government of the CNMI didn't know all this stuff is happening. Matter of fact, you look at all these other stories that we've done, these documents that we've uncovered, they were very much complicit in these crimes.
Well, that's common here too, because the types of things I was running into, they were at the highest levels of government. Tacit knowledge, tacit permission. You know, I mean, look at how Guam YTK rolled out. Look at how GRRP is still rolling out. I mean, think about it. Here's a company that doesn't exist. The former owner's in jail. The partnership was dissolved in 2012 when Waste Management notified the federal government it had pulled out. And yet it's still in the Superior Court of Guam, and the judge is pushing the parties to enter into binding arbitration for $20 million against the taxpayers of Guam. So the company doesn't exist. It's not a Guam chartered company. It doesn't have a business license. There's no partnership documents in existence.
Oh, sorry.
And there's no
For a second there, I thought you were
principles.
talking about Big Soap Tea.
Well, someone is paying an attorney to make appearances in court. So maybe you might have a point there. We don't know who. We don't know who is keeping this case in the Superior Court of Guam, because the only name we see is Guam Resource Recovery Partners and their attorney. But we don't know who's paying the attorney. We know the attorney pulled out because he wasn't getting paid, and then he filed a notice of appearance because he's now getting paid again. You know, so
it's no secret that you are an avid critic of the Calvo administration and the corruption that was going on there, right?
Yeah.
Have you changed your tune about that?
No.
Okay, good, thank you.
No, I'm still fighting the same battles in this administration.
So you've just added to that list the corruption of the Leon Guerrero administration.
Yeah.
I think we very much see eye to eye on that and how the future of this island looks so bleak. So please tell us, Ken, what are you going to do to fix that?
Well,
or to give us a glimmer of hope when you're elected senator?
Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to give the governor something else to think about. Now, remember, the legislature is the budget setting branch of government and policy creation form of government. What I would do is I would set a budget a realistic budget. We're not going to be, if I was in there right now, we wouldn't even be talking $1 billion budget. We'd be talking about a $650 million budget instead of $1 billion budget. Now she's going to have something to do. She can take the laws that she has on the books that Frank Uggan got passed in the 2019 budget to reorganize the government. The second thing that I would do is to would be to pass a law that boards and commissions cannot set salaries.
Okay.
Because look at right now, Roy Respicio, with no experience whatsoever, started out at $170,000 a year.
Well, to be fair, that's the salary range. That's the salary that the previous board left Joanne Brown.
No, but the whole point is, she left at the top of the pay scale.
No. They set this when that last thing was made. They set the general manager's salary at that rate.
Yeah, but the whole point is,
and Joanne,
it shouldn't be there, because now by the time Roy Respicio leaves, the next port manager is going to be starting at $500,000.
But that's entirely up to the board. It's the board.
That's why I said the boards and commissions will no longer have the ability to set management policy compensation.
Okay.
One of the things that I did like that Clint Rigel introduced was Bill 151 that required all salary adjustments for executive management of autonomous agencies or semi-autonomous agencies to have to be submitted to the legislature for a review.
Okay.
You know, because when Guam Regional Transit Authority, On the day they reported that they were $700,000 in the red, the board members gave Rick Augustine a raise.
Only in government.
Yeah, only in government.
Oh,
only
gee.
in government could you go before your boss and say, "Hey, by the way, we lost $700,000. Oh, here's a raise."
Oh,
You know.
gee, only in government.
And then we had Tom Atta. He went to the airport. His first duty, his first task was to give himself a pay raise.
Well, I heard his first task was something else that we can't discuss on this show.
All right. Well, from my perspective, he was on like the 11th of January or the 19th of January, and then 3 days later, there's a GG1 giving himself a pay raise.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Wouldn't that be illegal?
It would be illegal.
He never got a performance evaluation, right?
I think him
Well,
and
let's
Joanne
look at
Brown
Angel
are
Sablon
friends.
over at the Mayor's Council of
They
Guam.
probably are friends.
They're friends.
Mayor's Council, Angel Sablon.
I just have one more. Are we done with that topic? Or? I just have one. How do you feel about drug rehabilitation and?
We don't spend enough money on drug rehabilitation because if we're going to tackle the drug problem, we have to do it 3 ways. The first way is we have to stop the flow. The second thing we do is we ramp up the enforcement. And the third thing we have to do is we have to provide adequate rehabilitation efforts, because if we don't do that, we don't break the cycle.
If I may suggest, you might want to make your number 3 your number 1, because if not, crime comes about.
No, the whole thing, you have to do them all at the same time, or
Yeah,
it doesn't
okay,
work.
there you go.
Because when we start ramping up the enforcement, drug
Crime will
users
happen.
are going to go, okay, I better go and turn myself in and get help before I get caught up in the dragnet.
Actually, I've seen a lot of people do that. I've seen a lot of people want to,
I did.
go into a program rather than having to deal with lengthy sentences or, just they don't want to
But
get
there
in
has to be a
trouble.
program, and it has to be open. In other words, you don't have to have Select Care or Take Care or some other program to pay for it. You've got to be able to turn yourself into this program, and it has to be a quality program.
There aren't
It
enough
can't be
beds,
some guy
there's not
that's-
enough room, there's not enough funding for it.
You just there's not enough funding for it.
No.
But there is funding for other things that we could defund. In fact, if we went through the budget, and that's where policy takes place, this is now a policy priority of the People's House. The legislature says that drug rehabilitation will be offered, and it will be offered free of charge to people who turn themselves in to the program. And we will fund this program so that we have a successful program. It's not going to do us any good to create a program where people come in and sit at a table and read a brochure for an hour and then walk out.
Can you take a guess on a list of 1 to 100, with 1 being your highest priority? In a list of 1 to 100 funding priorities, where would funding drug rehabilitation be? Just ballpark number.
3.
Oh, that's pretty high. Okay.
It would be number 3, right in line with ramping up the budget for the police department, because they're all interrelated. I want healthy police officers. The way we have healthy police officers is we reduce their stress, because what they have to do is stressful enough without them having to be there in uniform with their SNAP card. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to reduce their stress to get them healthy so that they can do a better job protecting us. We have to improve our public health care system. We're in the midst of, and I'm going to do a video on it, and I'll send you my slides, but I did a presentation before the Rotary Club a while back on the chronic disease rates are exploding on Guam. Every family on Guam is touched by diabetes, cancer, cardiac disease, high blood pressure, metabolic syndrome, non-alcoholic fatty liver. I mean, it's huge, and it's draining families of their finances. I mean, if you don't have insurance, insulin is $1,000 a month. If you don't have insurance, that's to be alive. You have to come. I mean, and it's legal.
Thanks, Big Pharma.
You know, so you see, we need to strengthen public health so that we can save our people. We need to strengthen public safety to protect our people. And we need to ramp up public education. I am a proud beneficiary of a Guam public education. The education I got here on Guam took me all over the United States at the top levels in my consulting field. And it was the taxpayers of Guam that paid for my education.
Yeah, some of my best and smartest teachers were at JFK. Yeah.
Well, I'm a Gecko warrior, so
you're
we'll agree to be on the opposite sides.
No, it's okay. I graduated from Notre Dame High School.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So,
but
my
the point
nemesis are
is,
from the Pachadimi
I see the value of public education. You know, I'm a beneficiary, and education is the leveler.
Yes.
You know,
absolutely.
I mean, I have friends that I went to school with that are very, very successful business people in the mainland. You know, so we need to ramp up our public education, because that's the only way we can attract new industries to Guam. Because if we don't ramp up our education level to the point where we have students that are very intelligent, very educated, and very competent, we'll never attract businesses that offer middle class incomes. The only businesses we're going to attract is, you know, low wage service sector businesses like tourist industry or product fulfillment. I mean,
well, number one, we don't have a tourist industry right now, and number two, our kids aren't going back to schools.
I know, but the whole point is, before this happened, we graduated between 2,200 and 2,700 students a year from all schools, and we have an economy that created about 1,000 to 1,200 jobs a year.
And that doesn't even include the real number of 17-year-olds who became 18-year-olds that year.
Yeah.
Because, as we know, a lot of kids don't graduate from high school. Well, let's wrap up this show. Can you go to my screen? I want to show people. If you try to go to Imperial Pacific International's website, yeah, they left town, yo. They are gone.
Yeah, it's gone. Their website's gone.
They booked it back to China so fast. They were like, indictments, peace, yo.
and the hotel there is dead, right?
Yeah. So the big or what is he? Swarovski dragon. No one stole that yet.
Yeah. What are they gonna do with it? Put it at the pawn shop? Well,
hey, I know. So you move some Guam people over there, and that thing will be at the pawn shop right away.
Okay, Ken. Here's your bag. Let me. You have to choose one.
Oh, I hope you get the good question. There's one really good question in there. No, you can't read it. Johnny has to read it.
Okay.
Is it the good one?
No. It's still a good one. What's invisible but you wish people could see? What is invisible that you wish people could see?
The truth.
I like that kind of.
You like this question? Yeah.
I know, but I like his answer.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Was that the main one you were looking for? The truth?
No. Or yeah, that one.
Oh, okay. Oh, that was pretty good.
Perfect. I thought I was going to have to drop for 20.
Man, I'm dying to tell you what the really good question is, but we can't because the other candidates are watching. Who do we have tomorrow?
We have Chris Carrillo.
Chris Carrillo. Okay. And is Kandit owner Carlos Penguin
he'll
finally
be here.
going to join us?
Yes.
No, I don't think anyone. Carlos has never been on our show, but he is going to lead the grilling on Chris Carrillo tomorrow.
Oh.
But Ken, this was a great interview.
Yeah. Oh, don't forget, Ken gets the camera.
Oh shoot, that's right.
Oh.
You get to talk to the people of Guam.
Whatever you want.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and you don't have a buzzer.
And don't forget to ask people to vote for you.
Please vote for Ken Leon Guerrero this primary election. I'm number 4 on the Republican side. Now, having got my political duties out of the way, this is a very pivotal moment in our history as a people, as an island. It's very, very important that we get a majority, a supermajority of public servants in the 36th Guam legislature, because all the problems we have here on Guam are only going to be solved or made worse by the actions of the legislature, as we have seen on the 32nd, 33rd, 34th, and now the 35th. So it's time to break that cycle and vote for all the new candidates this primary election. So if you're voting Democrat, vote for all the new candidates. The only incumbents you should vote for are Therese Terlahi and Talina Nelson. And so that's going to be, I think, 8. Only vote for 8 people, 6 new candidates or 7 new candidates, and those 2 incumbents. On the and for Mike Chalikilis and BJ Cruz. On the Republican side, to make Guam a better place for the people of Guam, for the children of Guam and future generations, we got to break the cycle. Only vote for 3 incumbents. Well, there's only 3 left now that Will pulled out and Luis pulled out. So Mary Camacho Torres, James Moylan, and Teletaitigui. Vote for those 3 on the incumbents. Vote for Frank Bloss, the only returning senator that I think has the people as his focus, and vote for all the new Republican candidates. So I think that's 9. So we're looking at voting for 8 on the Democrat side, 9 on the Republican side. But what that does is it teaches all politicians, present and future, that you ignore the needs of the people. You put politically well-connected insiders ahead of the people at your own risk. That's the power we have as voters, but we have to use it. Now, tomorrow from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock, you can call the Guam Election Commission and make an appointment. If you have elders in your family, if you have a chronic health condition, or if you have children, I urge you to call the Guam Election Commission, make an appointment, and go and vote. You can make an appointment from 9 o'clock to 7 o'clock. I think it's from 10 o'clock to 1 o'clock on Saturday. And they also have drive-up voting for senior citizens or people with disabilities. The more people vote, the better our future becomes. And that's what I'm encouraging everybody to do. Let's take the control of our future out of the hands of the professional politicians and political parties, put it in the hands of the people with your vote. The more of us vote, the better our island will be sooner. And thank you very much. And support Kandit. I encourage you to support Kandit, because they are giving us the kind of exposure that we're not getting. When I say we, I'm talking about the new candidates. Kandit is making sure that people of Guam get the kind of exposure that new candidates can't get, because we're in a COVID situation, we have political parties running against us, and we can't raise funds. So support Kandit, which helps support new candidates, which helps support a better Guam.
Except J.I. Cruz. Except J.I. Cruz. When's the primary election?
Primary election is between now and August 29th.
Okay, so remember everyone, on August 29th, it's important that you go vote. And if you're voting for J.I. Cruz...
If you are not registered, you have to register first, guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you can do it online now.
You can do it online, or you can just do it at the village mayor's office, or you can go to the GEC.
So this is very important, everyone. You need to go vote on August 29th, the primary election. If you're voting for J.I. Cruz, there's a special election on August 30th. It'll be at the same places. And then when's the general election?
The general election is November 3rd.
So on November 4th is when you can go and vote for J.I. Cruz. The same election polling places. Or maybe you can go online to the website and just click on his name and just try it on November 4th, and we're all good. For Candid News, I'm Troy Torres.
And I'm Johnny Rosario.
And I'm Ken Leon Guerrero.
Good night.
Good night.